Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to MyPillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. MyPillow.com, promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome, and let's just jump right in. President Trump says National Security Advisor Michael Waltz doesn't need to apologize over the Signal text chain leak, saying he's, quote, doing his best. We learned the fate of Mr. Waltz's job from the president yesterday. We have all the latest details for you. Also at the White House yesterday, President Trump signed an election integrity executive order mandating a citizenship question on the federal voting form for the first time. Left-wing Representative Maxine suggests that President Trump should deport his Slovenia-born wife during a fiery and wildly inaccurate weekend rant against the administration's legal battle to eliminate birthright citizenship. And as if Waters wasn't enough, her lunatic colleague, Democrat Representative Jasmine Crockett, is at it again, adding people who care about keeping trans athletes out of women's sports to her list of targets. This lady has gone off the rails, even for a Democrat.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
President Trump defended National Security Advisor Michael Waltz during an ambassador meeting yesterday as his administration faces fierce backlash over the recent Signal text chain leak. The question of whether Waltz would be fired was the talk of the town. A lot of the left-wingers, the media, mainstream media, were pushing the White House for an answer to this question. Even some Republicans were questioning what had actually happened and what was going to take place. Trump made it pretty clear, though. Trump told Fox News he's not getting fired. The president said the incident was a mistake, though there was nothing and that there was nothing important in the Signal text thread. Waltz, whose staffers had unknowingly added the Atlantic editor-in-chief Jeffrey Goldberg to a Signal group chat where Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth and others discussed sensitive war plans, has come under fire for this blunder. Speaking to a room full of reporters, Trump said he believes Waltz is doing his best, and when asked if Mr. Waltz should apologize, here's the president's answer.
To success.
Who said the information
ahead,
was
please.
not classified?
Do you think that Mike Waltz made a mistake, and does he need to apologize?
No, I don't think he should apologize. I think he's doing his best. It's equipment and technology that's not perfect, and probably he won't be using it again, at least not in the very near future. What do you think?
Yes, sir. I agree with you. Let's get everybody in the room whenever possible.
A lot of times you find out defects by exactly things like that, but I don't think it's something we're looking forward to using again. We may be forced to use it. You may be in a situation where you need speed as opposed to gross safety, and you may be forced to use it, but generally speaking, I think we probably won't be using it very much.
Nope, I don't think he'll make that same mistake again. So just as a refresher here of what happened, Mr. Goldberg was added to this national security discussion called Houthi PC Small Group. This was earlier in March. He was able to learn about attacks against Houthi fighters in Yemen long before the public. Mr. Goldberg wrote in his piece about the experience, according to the lengthy Hegseth text, the first detonations in Yemen would be felt 2 hours hence at 1:45 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, Goldberg was on the Morning Joe yesterday on MSNBC, said that he wasn't sure the text was legitimate at first, but when the attacks actually happened, he knew they were real.
To be very, very clear, I did not fully believe it until Saturday the 15th. I received a text in this chain from Pete Hegseth detailing the war sequencing, the attack sequence, weapons packages, targets, all that sort of thing. And I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, well, and it gives us the time. It gives me the time that the attack is going to launch. And so, I sat and I waited. And I figured out, obviously, if there's an attack on Yemen in 2 hours, then I'm not in a kind of a disinformation bubble or in a simulation of some sort. That these are just the top national security advisors of the United States telling each other that an attack is about to commence and talking about the elements of the attack. That's what really kind of bothered me, to tell you the truth. So and then 1:45, 1:50 p.m. the attack commences, and I'm like, all right, well, that's a real signal group.
Now, as President Trump clarified, and others have as well, though Goldberg was seeing the text, it didn't cause any problems with the military plan. The national security breach, of course, stunned a lot of people, and critics of the Trump administration are calling for heads to roll. During yesterday's meeting, Trump also said that he was in contact with Waltz over whether hackers could have potentially broken or hacked into the Signal conversations. Trump said, are people able to break into conversations? If that's true, we're going to have to find some other form of device. Now, Waltz has assured the president that they're looking into it. They think that one of Waltz's staffers was probably responsible for adding Mr. Goldberg inadvertently to a contact list. Earlier yesterday, though, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth was asked about the situation and how this happened and what he thinks should happen.
Can you share how your information about war plans against the Houthis in Yemen was shared with a journalist in The Atlantic? And were those details classified?
You're talking about a deceitful and highly discredited so-called journalist who's made a profession of peddling hoaxes time and time again, to include the hoaxes of Russia, or the fine people on both sides hoax, or suckers and losers hoax. So this is the guy that peddles in garbage. This is what he does.
Why were those details shared on Signal, and how did you learn that a journalist was privy to the targets, the types of weapons used?
I've heard I was characterized. Nobody was texting war plans, and that's all I have to say about that.
Now, again, the Trump administration rallied around Michael Waltz and one another. I mean, because if in fact it had been determined that this was classified information that should not have been leaked and could have or did jeopardize the mission, I would suspect that everybody on that text message could have had some issues. President Trump, again, suggesting that a staffer with the National Security Office probably added Mr. Goldberg to this list. The president added that Goldberg's inclusion in the group chat had no impact at all on the strike in Yemen. Now, Signal is an encrypted messaging app that operates similar to texting or making phone calls, but with some additional security measures that help ensure communications are kept private to those included in the correspondence. So no one else was able to see this, but it was a bit disturbing that this reporter somehow had been included on this text message chain, because that's the only way you would be able to see it, is if you have been invited and included on the list. Now, there's also been some discussion about, evidently in part of this exchange, Vice President J.D. Vance had asked some questions about the timing of this attack. Some of the leftist mainstream media folks are trying to say that he was challenging the president's decision. That's just not the case. This is, once again, the mainstream media's attempt to drive a wedge in between J.D. Vance and the president and other members of the Trump team. It's not going to happen. And the fact is, the media, Morning Joe, MSNBC, all the media that is piling on Michael Waltz and others, Pete Hegseth, they know that it really didn't make any difference. I mean, the targets, the attacks were success. They know that it didn't really affect this operation. They just love something to complain about. They love a gotcha moment. And unfortunately, they kind of gave them that opportunity, didn't they? Paul in Greenville on the text line says, the Atlantic leak question. I'm ex-Navy and would like to give my opinion, but I really don't have one. Mistakes were made. I hope they'll be reviewed and not made again. And I think that's what we're going to take away from this. We're going to learn and move on. Hi, Joey Hudson here. You know, this spring there's a renewed energy and focus on efficiencies, and shaking up unhealthy habits don't serve us well. There's so much chatter about making America great again, but it starts in your home with you being the best, healthiest version of yourself. And PhD Weight Loss is doing their part, because for the first time ever, the first 11 callers get 2 free weeks added to your weight loss program. That is huge. PhD's out to prove that you don't need Big Pharma to reach your goals. It just creates dependency, not long-term change. Dr. Ashley Lucas researched weight loss trends for years and discovered a scientifically proven way to retrain your body to burn fat efficiently without hunger, extreme exercise, or dangerous medications. PhD clients watch their belly fat disappear, their energy skyrocket, cholesterol and blood pressure normalize without starving themselves. I lost over 30 pounds and I've never felt better. So call now and mention promo code Joey for my 2 weeks for free with my program. Call 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900, or go to myphdweightloss.com. This kind of got interesting yesterday. President Trump signed an election integrity executive order mandating a citizenship question on the federal voting form for the first time. Trump told reporters at the White House, perhaps some people think I shouldn't be complaining because we won in a landslide, but we're going to straighten out our election, he said. The order will mandate voters to show proof of citizenship to state or local officials before they go to the voting booths, and the officials to record the details of the citizenship document, like date and expiration on the form. He's going to hold local election officials accountable to make sure they get this. The executive order will also instruct the Election Assistance Commission to cut state funding if they don't comply with taking measures to secure the elections, and will instruct the Department of Justice to crack down on election-related crimes. It's already illegal for non-citizens to vote in U.S. federal elections, but Republicans have long pushed for more checkpoints to ensure that we have secure elections. The House passed a bill in July mandating voters to present proof of citizenship, but the bill stalled in the U.S. Senate. The order also calls on the Department of Homeland Security, along with the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, to comb through publicly available voter registration lists in parallel with immigration databases to ensure consistency. Now, this is a smart move. Let's compare those voter registration lists with immigration lists. Let's make sure that some of these locals haven't allowed illegals to enter our voter database. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem is instructed to provide Attorney General Pam Bondi with a list of non-citizens discovered to have illegally voted in elections. Wow. Proof of citizenship. Currently usually not required to register to vote, but lying on your application as a non-citizen could result in deportation. I got a feeling that we're going to make another deportation list here, because this should be easy enough to cross-reference and find these people. The president has also called for proof of voter ID, but has not yet included that in the executive order, we're told. The president's message on the importance of having secure elections since 2020, and we know what happened in 2020. No reason to get involved in that. Millions of people used mail-in ballots during the COVID pandemic. It resulted in Trump's defeat and the last 4 year nightmare. Trump has since called for paper ballots and for voting to finish up a day after, streamlining the counting process. And I got a feeling that if we turn Elon Musk and his team loose on how we can get the results a lot faster, I got a feeling that Elon Musk can come up with a way. There's got to be an easier way and a faster way to count the votes. You agree? Trump said at the White House on Monday, we should go to one-day voting We should go to voter ID and just one other thing, proof of a thing called citizenship in the U.S. Wouldn't that be nice? Yes, Mr. President, would. He went on to say we have to straighten out our country. We have to straighten out our elections. Our elections are very dishonest, very corrupt, and we have to straighten it out. He specifically targeted California's election processes after the January wildfires around Malibu, saying, I want voter ID for the people of California, and they all want it too. So this is a move in the right direction, isn't it? To secure our elections, to make sure that we don't have illegals registering to vote when they shouldn't. And it's a simple process. Just cross-reference those lists. The Democrats are literally losing it. Do you think they get a little more extreme every day? For example, left-wing Representative Maxine Waters is at it again. She was at a rally this past weekend back in her home district. She implied that President Trump should deport First Lady Melania Trump because she was born in Slovenia. This was a fiery, a wild. I mean, she got on one of her rants. Maxine Waters did, and as usual, she was very inaccurate too. She didn't know what she was talking about. She was raving against the administration's legal battle to eliminate birthright citizenship, and she got a little bit confused. Or maybe she never understood it to begin with. Speaking at a protest against the Department of Government Efficiency's cost-cutting efforts in Los Angeles, she bizarrely brought up First Lady Melania Trump and her background. Here's the exchange.
Should be deported.
If he wants to start looking so closely to find those who were born here and their parents were undocumented, maybe he ought to first look at Melania. We don't know whether or not her parents were documented. And maybe we'd better just take a look.
Maybe we should just take another look. Is this woman just nuts? Really, Maxine? You're just showing your ignorance here. So let's set the record straight. Melania Trump was born in 1970 in Slovenia. It was then part of Yugoslavia. She relocated to New York City in 1996, initially on a travel visa before receiving an H-1B visa that allowed her to legally work as a model. The future First Lady became a U.S. citizen in 2006 after marrying Donald Trump, and is the first naturalized American to serve in that role. She's just the second foreign-born First Lady in U.S. history. She joins England-born and France-raised Louisa Adams, the wife of sixth President John Quincy Adams. Melania Trump later helped sponsor her parents in getting citizenship, which they obtained in 2018. Her mother died in January of 2024. So now, Madam Congresswoman, birthright citizenship refers to the 14th Amendment's statement that, quote, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside, which does not apply to the First Lady since she was not born in the United States and has never pretended to have been born here. This lady is just dumb. And she is a member of the United States House of Representatives. President Trump and his allies have insisted that the definition of birthright citizenship should be narrowed to prevent illegal immigrants from traveling to the U.S. so their children can be naturally born here. The president, who signed an executive order in January ending birthright citizenship, is being challenged, of course, in the courts like so many other things that he has tried to do. He's argued that the 14th Amendment was enacted to provide for former slaves and does not apply to modern immigrants, and I think he's right. Waters added in her address to the crowd Saturday, we are here because we're not going to let Trump, we're not going to let Elon Musk, his co-president, or anybody else take the United States Constitution down. She needs to read the Constitution. She needs to study it a bit and better understand it. Like so many other times in the past, this lady talks before she thinks. Your comments are welcome on the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. The feud between President Donald Trump and Maine Governor Janet Mills continues. The president is continuing to call on the governor to apologize to him after their little skirmish the other week in the White House. He's asking her to apologize over her state's reluctance to follow his executive order to ban trans athletes from girls' sports over the weekend. Mills has now responded, but without an apology. Mills spoke to reporters in Bangor on Monday, rebuffing Trump and insisting that her state's reluctance to follow his executive order is not anything to do about protesting trans athletes in girls' sports, but simply to follow the rule of law.
My issue is about the rule of law, pure and simple. It's not about transgender sports. I read the Constitution. The Constitution says that the president, the chief executive, shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed. It doesn't allow him to make laws out of whole cloth by tweet or Instagram post or press release or executive order. People in Maine and across the country are waiting for an economic plan from the current occupant of the White House. And so far, we've seen none.
Yeah, kind of like your former president, like the Biden administration. Did he show you his economic plan? Did you like what he did? Governor Mills also condemned Trump for his stance on abortion, for what he's doing with tariffs. Never once referred to him by name, but she talked about the current administration. She said, "We've seen policies that threaten women and girls across the country. If the current occupant of the White House wants to protect women and girls, he should start by protecting the women and teenage girls who are suffering miscarriages and dying because they can't get basic life-saving health care in states across the country." She's going to that tired old argument that women are losing their lives because they're not able to get an abortion, and it's just unsafe for them. Now, this all started with President Trump demanding an apology from the governor on a Truth Social post Saturday morning. He wrote this: "While the state of Maine has apologized for their governor's strong but totally incorrect statement about men playing in women's sports while at this White House Governor's Conference, we have not heard from the governor herself, and she is one that matters in such cases." He said, "Therefore, we need a full-throated apology from the governor herself and a statement that she will never make such an unlawful challenge to the federal government again before this case can be settled. I'm sure she will be able to do that quite easily. Thank you for your attention to this matter, and make America great again, Donald J. Trump." Talk about rubbing salt in a wound. Now, you know that Maine had to backtrack on what they were saying they were going to do, because Trump threatened to freeze federal funding. In fact, he did freeze federal funding. And you had a number of these primarily state-supported colleges who immediately, when they saw their funding was being threatened, immediately got in line with the Trump administration. The feud started February 20th when Trump threatened at that point to cut federal funding to the state for not banning trans athletes. And they went so far as that very next weekend allowed trans athletes to compete in sports, just sort of thumbing their nose at the Trump administration. And Governor Mills can talk about the rule of law all she wants. This was a clear defiance of what Donald Trump's executive order tried to accomplish. She knew it, because the very next day, after the White House back and forth, her office responded with a statement threatening legal action against the Trump administration if, in fact, it did try to withhold federal funding from the state. Then Trump and Mills verbally sparred in this widely publicized White House meeting. We all saw it. She didn't hold back. She tried to hold her own. But soon after, the Department of Education announced that a Title IX investigation against Maine was just hours away. And they started digging in. Since then, multiple protests against Mills have been held outside the state capitol. The Maine university system has cooperated with the Trump administration to ensure that no trans athletes compete in women's sports after this temporary funding pause because they saw their little bank account froze because Trump did what he said he was going to do. They should have never gotten involved in playing a game of chicken with Donald Trump. Last week, Health and Human Services Office of Civil Rights officially announced that it found that the Maine Department of Education, the Maine Principals Association, and Greeley High School in violation of Title IX for its continued enabling of trans inclusion in girls' sports. OCR Acting Director Anthony Artival provided a statement warning of potential consequences for continued defiance of the executive order. In his statement, he said, what HHS is asking of the Maine Department of Education, the Maine Principals Association, and Greeley High School is simple. Protect female athletes and their rights. Girls deserve girls-only sports without male competitors, and if Maine won't come to the table to voluntarily comply with Title IX, HHS will enforce Title IX to the fullest extent permitted by law. And why these states want to do this, I don't know. Why a female governor would want to be defiant on a measure that would protect females in their own sports makes no sense. No sense at all. HHS's initial announcement warned that the state had 10 days to correct its policies through a signed agreement or risk referral to the Department of Justice for the appropriate action. That deadline to comply is tomorrow. I think they'll come around. You? Representative Lauren Boebert in Colorado, kind of in the headlines this week, when she urged House lawmakers to stop making fun of President Trump's renaming of the Gulf of America, suggesting that maybe Washington, D.C. should face the same fate. Boebert made the remarks during a legislative hearing on the Gulf of America Act to support Trump's executive order and make it permanent.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would caution my colleagues on the other side of the aisle to refrain from making fun of the Gulf of America because next up, may end up be the District of America that we're working on. So just, keep the jokes at bay and, maybe we'll just stick with the Gulf of America for now.
Now, wouldn't that be something? To rename the District of Columbia to District of America? Talk about Democrats standing on their heads. Now, they would stand on their heads if we started to, if Trump changed the name of the U.S. Capitol. Trump, of course, has been very critical of D.C. leaders and their inability to rid the city of violent crime. It's just, the nation's capital is just a horrible place to live right now. He, in a statement, he said, we're cleaning up our city. This is during a speech at the Justice Department earlier this month. He said, we're cleaning up this great capital, and we're not going to have crime. And we're not going to stand for crime, and we're going to take the graffiti down. Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser ordered the removal of Black Lives Matter in the plaza. Remember that? Remember that disgusting, when they disgustingly painted in bright, large yellow letters, Black Lives Matter? It was first painted in the summer of 2020 during Trump's first term after days of chaotic protest at the location after the killing of George Floyd, and it's been there ever since. It's about time it disappears. It's a crime that they put it there to begin with. But I think Trump has Mayor Bowser's attention because she's probably got to thinking about this and knows that Trump probably has the support to change the name of the District of Columbia. Now, how does District of America sound? You like that? District of America. Text me. Email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. You can also leave me a message on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Just call. Leave me a quick message. Let me know, how do you feel about District of America? Should we rename the nation's capital? Email me. Leave me a message on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY. Your comments are welcome on the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Firmin Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Firmin Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you could trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Firmin Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Firmin, Matthew Firmin. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Firmin Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Firmin Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Firmin Ford online at firminford.com, firminford.com. Representative Jasmine Crockett, who, like Maxine Waters, think about this for a minute. Look at Maxine Waters and look at Jasmine Crockett. Look at AOC. Some of the Democrat women in the U.S. House of Representatives are just shameless. Crockett has added people who care about keeping trans athletes out of women's and girls' sports to her list of targets. She thinks if we believe that trans athletes should not be in women's sports, she's going to come after us. That we are in her mind, we are out of our minds. This was an interview with the 19th last week. This is a podcast. Crockett dismissed the topic of trans inclusion in women's and girls' sports as a distraction, she said. And, of course, she's talking about last year's election. And she believes that Democrats, her party, allowed the trans issue to become, quote, a distraction. She minimizes the potential impact that these men pretending to be women can have on the lives of young women and their families. Crockett made the comments while being critical of Democrats for becoming divided on the issue. Here she is.
It's one of the things that I tell people. We allowed them to distract us. And we allowed them to talk about the trans folk. And the trans folk, it's really them trans kids, y'all. According to them, the trans kids that want to play the sports, Lord have mercy, that is the biggest issue that we had. Since when? Since when? Find the little trans child that is ruining your life. I'm just like, what are we doing?
She has lost her mind. She has just completely lost her mind. If she doesn't think that that these men playing in women's sports isn't a big deal, it isn't a serious topic to be discussed. This is a member of Congress. Do we have no standards for who can serve in the U.S. House of Representatives? Well, let me give you some examples, Miss Crockett. Former high school girls volleyball player Peyton McNabb saw her life irreversibly change when a trans athlete spiked a ball in her face when she was just 19 years old. McNabb's injuries included a concussion, brain bleed, and permanent whiplash, and it ultimately ended her athletic career, a career that she had worked her entire life on. You don't think that's serious, Congresswoman Crockett? That's not serious? Well, let's use another example. Former San Jose State University volleyball players Elle Patterson and Alyssa Sugay. They've joined a lawsuit against the school in the Mountain West Conference, alleging the presence of a trans athlete on their former team cost them an opportunity to earn a scholarship for their team. Now, that's serious, wouldn't you agree there, Congresswoman? That these two young ladies lost scholarships to young men who shouldn't have been playing to begin with? Both Patterson and Sugay claimed the lack of a fair chance to earn a scholarship impacted them mentally and financially. I guess that's not serious business. I don't guess we should be concerned about that, huh? Okay, well, what about this, Congresswoman Crockett? I'm sure you are a big supporter of the United Nations like your other Democrat cronies. The United Nations released a study that says that nearly 900 biological females have fallen short of victories. Why? Because they've been defeated by men. They've been defeated by men who should not have been playing in their sports to begin with. What about that, Congresswoman Crockett? The study, Violence Against Women and Girls in Sports, said more than 600 athletes did not medal in more than 400 competitions in 29 different sports, totaling over 890 medals, according to information obtained up through this month. Is that not serious, Ms. Crockett? Meanwhile, Ms. Crockett is also facing a potential censure over recent comments about Texas Governor Greg Abbott. Have you heard this story? GOP lawmaker is moving to have Representative Jasmine Crockett. By the way, she is from Texas, and she is critical of her own governor, even if he is a Republican. So a GOP lawmaker is moving to have Representative Crockett formally rebuked by the House of Representatives for mocking Texas Governor Greg Abbott's disability. Representative Randy Weber, Crockett's fellow delegation member, says that he would introduce a censure resolution after Crockett referred to the wheelchair-bound Abbott as Governor Hot Wheels. Did you hear her say that? She called Greg Abbott Governor Hot Wheels during an event held by the Human Rights Campaign this past weekend. This week, Crockett has also said that her birthday wish, have you heard this one? Her birthday wish, which is like March the 30th or so, maybe the 29th, that her birthday wish is for Elon Musk to be taken down and that Democrats need to be okay with punching while referring to Senator Ted Cruz. Now, what exactly does she mean when she says that she wants Elon Musk to be taken down? How do you interpret that? How do you take someone down? Is she promoting violence? Does she literally mean someone to take him out? I mean, typically that's what it means. And then when it comes to Senator Cruz, she said it's Ted Cruz. I mean, this dude has to be knocked over the head like hard, right? Like there's no niceties with him, like at all, like you go clean off on him. So she's proposing, I guess, that someone hit Ted Cruz in the head. And let me remind you that she previously incited backlash on the topic of trans athletes in women's sports for claiming that President Trump's executive order to keep trans athletes out of women's and girls' sports didn't protect women in an ex post. How could it not protect women? That's exactly what it did, is protect women. Here's what she said. She wrote this. On National Girls and Women in Sports Day, Trump is banning trans kids from playing sports, trying to cut Title IX women's and girls' athletic grants, removing references to women, female, and equality on government websites. Crockett wrote, "Let me be clear, this doesn't protect women." This lady is nuts. Now Crockett's dismissal of the topic as a distraction, that this was just a distraction to Democrats, and that's why they lost in 2024. She really doesn't have a clue, does she? She doesn't have a clue that the American people and people in her district in Texas, I hope someone runs against her. I hope a conservative Democrat with a little bit of sense will challenge her. Don't you? That's it for today's show. Tara's up next, followed by Mike Gallagher, Bill Frady, Charlie James this afternoon, Mark Levin tonight. We're back again tomorrow at 5 a.m. for your first cup of coffee for more of Sunrise Carolina. Till then, folks, just remember this. God's got this. He's still in control. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Firmin Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com. And I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.